Have you ever had a gut feeling so strong that it turned out to be true? A sensation that came without warning, without any apparent reason, yet spoke with a clear inner voice that seemed impossible to ignore. Maybe you thought it was just a coincidence, a trick of the mind, or an insignificant hunch. However, when time showed you that what you felt was real, something inside you stirred. Something whispered that there was much more within you than you had ever acknowledged. What if that intuition wasn't an accident? What if your entire life has been guided by a deeper wisdom, but you didn't know how to listen to it? How many times, dear seeker, have we ignored that inner voice trying to gently guide us simply because we've been taught to distrust what we cannot see or explain? From childhood, we were taught to seek evidence, to demand logical reasons before believing in something. But intuition doesn't speak in the cold language of logic. It speaks in whispers, in feelings, in fleeting visions, in subtle vibrations that only an open heart can understand. Every time you felt a warning without knowing why, every time you've inexplicably known which path was right, your soul was speaking to you. How many times have you silenced that voice, believing it was just your imagination? Today, I invite you to rediscover the gift that has always lived within you, the gift of spiritual intuition. It's not a magical quality reserved for a few enlightened people. It is a natural inheritance, part of the spiritual luggage we all bring into this world. Your intuition is the direct bridge between your conscious mind and the infinite wisdom of your soul. It's the internal compass that, when you learn to listen, guides you lovingly toward the paths that serve you best, avoiding dangers, revealing opportunities, and helping you remember who you truly are. Recognizing and developing your intuition is truly an act of self-love. It's honoring your connection to the divine, trusting that the universe speaks to you not only through what is visible, but also through the silent vibrations that move through your being. Learning to listen to this inner voice will allow you to walk with more confidence, live more authentically, and experience a peace that only those in tune with their soul can understand. It's no coincidence that you're here hearing these words. A part of you already knows it's time to awaken this dormant gift. So today, I invite you to take the first step, a simple but powerful gesture. If you've ever felt that inner voice, that subtle calling that whispers paths and answers to you, I invite you to affirm it from your heart. Say, "Yes, I'm ready." It's not just an act of affirmation, it's a declaration to the universe that you've chosen to listen, to trust, and to awaken to the deep truth that lives within you. Because your intuition, silent yet powerful, has been trying to guide you your whole life, and now, at last, you're ready to listen. The first whisper of the soul, the first sign that your intuition is alive and present, is that sensation of instant certainty. There's no prior reasoning, no pros and cons list, no meticulous analysis. You simply know. It's as if a spark inside ignites, and without being able to explain why, you feel absolutely sure about something. Maybe it's the certainty that you should accept an opportunity, or the intuition that you should walk away from an apparently perfect situation. No matter how illogical the external circumstances seem, within you, the truth echoes in a way you cannot ignore. This inner certainty doesn't come from the rational mind or logical reasoning. In fact, it often contradicts what logic would dictate. Yet despite this, it doesn't create anxiety or doubt. On the contrary, It brings a deep sense of peace and conviction. It's a wisdom that flows from the very roots of your being, as if your soul has already seen the outcome and whispers to you, silently, the best direction to follow. The more you learn to recognize and honor these inner certainties, the clearer your intuitive connection becomes and the stronger your spiritual confidence grows. The second major manifestation of intuition is the appearance of warnings or inner alerts without logical explanation. These are the moments when something inside you says, "Be careful," or simply makes you feel uneasy, even though everything around you seems normal. It could happen when meeting someone new, considering an apparently promising business, or walking down a street that suddenly feels oppressive. There aren't always clear words or detailed images. Sometimes it's just a vibration, a slight tightness in your chest, or an inexplicable sense of discomfort. These subtle warnings are how your intuition protects you, trying to spare you from pain, loss, or mistakes before they happen. It's important to understand that the soul perceives far more than the eyes can see or the ears can hear. The soul picks up on energies, intentions, and potential futures, and through your intuition, sends you signals so you can act accordingly. Ignoring these signs often results in learning through hardship, while honoring them allows you to walk in harmony with the divine flow of life. Distinguishing these intuitive signals from rational thoughts is essential. Rational thought is noisy, agitated, full of pros and cons, fears and doubts. Intuition, on the other hand, is quiet and steady. It doesn't argue or justify. It needs no reason. It simply presents itself clearly and calmly, like an inner truth that feels more real than any external argument. Learning to tell the difference between the mind and the soul is an art. And that art begins when you start to trust those whispers that come exactly when you need them most. Allow yourself to listen. Allow yourself to trust, because your soul doesn't need to shout to be heard. It whispers. And if you pay attention, you'll discover that whisper is stronger and truer than all the voices of the outer world combined. There is a form of communication that uses no words, that needs no explanations or arguments, yet is as real as the air you breathe. It's the ability to feel the energy of places and people, an art that blossoms when your intuition truly awakens. Sometimes just crossing the threshold of a space is enough for your emotional state to change instantly. You may feel a heavy weight in a place full of sorrow, or a comforting lightness in a place filled with love and peace. In the same way, when facing certain people, your body and soul react before you exchange a single word. A subtle discomfort, a chill, or conversely, a warm opening in your chest. These reactions are not coincidences or products of your imagination. They are the energetic language of your inner being, perceiving the invisible vibrations that every space and every person emits. Everything in this universe vibrates. Everything has an energetic frequency that your soul can silently interpret. Sensing the emotional atmosphere of a place, or the true essence of a person without analysis, is a clear expression of intuitive wisdom in action. When you allow that perception to guide your decisions, you begin to move through the world with greater harmony and confidence. The fourth sign confirming the active presence of your intuition is the arrival of sudden inspirations, ideas, solutions, answers, or creative impulses that arise naturally, without effort or prior reasoning. It's as if a door inside you opens, revealing a truth or a solution your conscious mind hadn't been able to find. These moments of clarity don't come from logical thinking, but from a higher level of wisdom that transcends the limits of your intellect. Authentic inspiration is a direct manifestation of your connection to higher wisdom. It is the soul whispering to you paths your mind has not yet conceived. It's a spark from universal consciousness touching your spirit, illuminating possibilities that were hidden behind the veil of the everyday. When you learn to value and act on these inspirations, you align with a creative flow that not only improves your personal life, but also connects you with your highest purpose. Intuition acts as a sacred bridge between your individual consciousness and the infinite wisdom that sustains the universe. It is not a luxury nor a fantasy. It is your natural right as a spiritual being having a human experience. And the more you practice the art of silent listening, the more you allow these perceptions and inspirations to guide your steps, the more evident it becomes that you have never been alone on this journey. You have always been guided, supported, and loved far beyond what your physical eyes can see. Trust those subtle changes, those spontaneous ideas. They are the invisible threads your soul is weaving to lead you toward your most luminous destiny. When your intuition is activated, you begin to see the world through new eyes. What once seemed random begins to reveal patterns. What you thought were coincidences begin to feel like messages. Thus appears one of the clearest signs of your inner awakening, the ability to recognize patterns and synchronicities. Have you noticed how certain numbers repeat often in your life, like 1111, 222, or 777? Or have you had chance encounters with key people at just the right moment? These synchronicities are not accidents. They are visible signs that something greater is guiding your path. Repeating numbers, messages in songs, books, or unexpected phrases are the language of the universe. They are confirmations that you're on the right path, or warnings that something needs your attention. The rational mind will try to dismiss them, but the soul recognizes them instantly. Feeling that everything is connected, that events make sense even if you don't fully understand them, is a sign that your intuition is working. Your perception begins to align the invisible threads of reality, and without trying, you understand that there is divine order within the apparent chaos. The sixth sign of an active intuition is one of the most valuable: gut feelings that save or guide you before something happens. These are gentle yet firm warnings that tell you, don't go there, wait, or trust this. Many times, these intuitions have kept you from getting involved in difficult situations, making hasty decisions, or staying near people who didn't align with your truth. And what's most interesting is that when you follow them, you almost always discover there was something more you hadn't seen, but your soul knew. These gut feelings need no explanation. They come without warning, without logic. They don't argue. They don't shout. They simply show up. And when you listen, you feel peace, even if you don't know why. That's one of the keys. True intuition never comes with fear or anxiety. It brings clarity, certainty, and often protection. It gently shows you the paths to take and the ones to avoid. It is your quietest guide, but also the most accurate. Has your intuition ever guided you? Have you felt those invisible signals that led you to better places or steered you away from danger? Share your experience and help others recognize their gift. The impulse to call someone you haven't seen in years, to visit a new place, or to make a decision you hadn't considered before. There's no logic to support it, no concrete reason you can explain. There is only that internal certainty, that silent magnetism pushing you toward what is right for your evolution. The most extraordinary thing is that later on, looking back, you realize those seemingly senseless movements were actually perfect steps. That person you called brought you a vital lesson. That place you visited without knowing why became the stage where a new chapter of your life had to begin. That decision you made with your heart and not your mind opened paths you never would have imagined. This kind of guidance doesn't come from logic or rational analysis. It comes from your soul, which always knows what your mind has yet to understand. When you start trusting these subtle impulses, surrendering to the wisdom that flows from the deepest part of your being, something wonderful happens. Your life begins to naturally align with your life's purpose. You no longer have to force events or struggle against circumstances. Opportunities come, the right people appear, and doors open with ease, not because you stop acting, but because you learn to act in sync with the divine plan your soul mapped out before you were born. Your intuition is the map constantly reminding you where to walk. The connection between intuition and life mission is sacred. Your mission is not something you have to invent or desperately search for outside yourself. Your mission is already coded within you, waiting to be remembered, waiting for you to trust enough to let it guide you. Every true intuitive impulse is a sign from your soul saying, "This is the way." It is the inner compass that not only guides you toward your personal purpose, but also toward your contribution to collective well-being. When you trust that inner guidance, you enter a state of spiritual flow. You no longer walk alone nor blindly. Walking with you is the wisdom of all your lives, the love of those who accompany you from unseen realms, and the purpose that brought you into this existence. You don't need to understand it all right away. You only need to open up, trust, and take the next step, guided by that silent voice that has always known the best path for you. This is how intuition expands. When you honor it, when you follow it, when you recognize that your soul already knows the destination long before your mind even suspects it. On the path of intuitive awakening, one of the most common challenges is distinguishing between active imagination and real intuitive perception. This doubt is legitimate, natural, and in a way healthy, because it invites us to observe ourselves closely and to develop more refined internal discernment. How can you know if that message you feel truly comes from your soul or is just a mental construct? How can you separate fantasies generated by desires, fears, or expectations from the true wisdom that arises from your deepest core? Active imagination, though powerful and valuable in its own creative space, is usually a deliberate process. It comes from our conscious intention. We want to imagine, to visualize, to create scenarios. True intuition, on the other hand, manifests spontaneously. You don't seek it, you don't force it. It arrives like a sudden whisper, a silent certainty, or a fleeting image that settles in your consciousness so naturally it almost seems obvious. The most important difference lies in the origin. Imagination comes from voluntary thinking. Intuition comes from deep perception. There are internal indicators that help you recognize when you're receiving a genuine perception. The first is peace. Authentic intuition brings immediate serenity, even when the message is uncomfortable or challenging. It doesn't cause anxiety or exaggerated fear. It's silent knowing without urgency. The second indicator is certainty, a feeling of this is how it is that you can't rationally justify but feel with your entire being. And the third is emotional detachment. Real intuition does not cling or try to convince you. It simply is, clear and firm, even if you choose to ignore it. Trusting your intuition is an act of faith in yourself. It means learning to value that first internal impression before the rational mind begins to question or reshape it to fit its own frameworks. You don't need rational proof to validate your intuition because its nature transcends logic. What you need instead is practice, conscious observation, and above all, courage. Courage to act on what feels true, even when you can't explain it in words. As you deepen this path, you'll notice intuition never pushes, never confuses. It doesn't argue, doesn't shout, doesn't dramatize. It's just there, like a gentle breeze showing you a direction, like an inner light that even in the darkest moments knows where to guide your steps. Learning to distinguish the voice of your intuition from the voice of your mind is, in truth, learning to remember who you are at your core, a deeply wise being connected to the source of all life, guided not by uncertainty, but by the eternal wisdom that lives within you. Having the gift of intuition doesn't just mean receiving signs or hunches spontaneously. It also means cultivating, protecting, and expanding that capacity, like someone tending a delicate flower that, when nurtured and respected, can bloom with strength. Your intuition is like a channel, and like any channel, it can be opened, widened, blocked, or even closed. That's why, if you wish to deepen this sacred connection, it's essential to incorporate daily practices that strengthen the bridge between your rational awareness and your inner wisdom. And trust me, you don't need grand rituals or complex tools. You just need presence, sincerity, and inner discipline. One of the simplest yet most powerful practices you can adopt is internal listening meditation. Unlike traditional meditations focused on silencing the mind, this technique has a specific purpose. Learning to hear what your soul wants to communicate, you only need a few minutes a day. Find a calm space, close your eyes, and place your attention in the center of your chest or on your brow instead of the third eye. Take a few deep breaths, and without expecting immediate answers, simply ask yourself, what do I need to know today? Then remain in silence. You may receive nothing right away, or you may get an image, a word, a sensation. What matters is to open the channel and trust. Another transformative practice is the so-called daily intuitive dialogue. It consists of writing a brief conversation with your inner voice every day. Start by writing a question from your conscious self. Then, with humility and openness, allow a response to flow onto the page, without judgment, without editing. This exercise not only helps strengthen the connection, but also trains your mind to differentiate between logic and intuition. Over time, you'll develop a clearer, deeper, more natural relationship with that wise part of you that's always ready to guide you. But enhancing your intuition also means protecting your energy. A mind saturated with external noise, with other people's opinions, and constant stimuli becomes incapable of hearing the subtle. That's why it's vital to regularly disconnect from the excess of information, take care of your emotions, and surround yourself with environments that nourish your soul. Avoid people or places that drain your energy. Do energetic cleanses with meditation, harmonic sounds, salt baths, or even conscious breathing. Remember, clean energy is a clear channel. And when the channel is free of interference, intuition flows naturally. Your intuitive gift is a sacred one. It's not a static talent or a privilege for a few. It is a spiritual muscle that, when exercised with love, awareness, and commitment, connects you to a more authentic, more aligned, more luminous life. Don't be afraid to go deeper. Don't underestimate the power of a simple practice in daily life. In silent consistency, the bridge is built that will allow you to live guided not by fear, but by the certainty of your soul. There is a deep truth you may not have fully remembered yet. Intuition is not something you learn, it's something you remember, because it doesn't come from outside of you, and it's not a technique someone can teach you from scratch. It is ancient wisdom already living within you. It's been with you since before you could speak, think, or understand the world. Your soul has always spoken, in dreams, in gut feelings, in emotions you didn't know how to name. It has spoken through silences, inner pulses, and paths you didn't understand in the moment, but later revealed their meaning. Intuition is the original voice, that spiritual language your heart already knows, even when your mind doubts. Reconnecting with this inner voice is not an intellectual process. It is an act of self-love. It is the conscious decision to trust yourself, to value yourself, to validate your emotions, perceptions, and sensitivities without needing the outer world to confirm them. Looking inward and saying, "My truth matters. My feelings also have value. I deserve to listen to myself." It doesn't matter how long you've ignored your intuition. It doesn't matter if you once mistook it for fear or if you strayed from it by listening more to others than to yourself. Today, you can return. Today, you can make space for silence and go back to that center where wisdom has never stopped beating. Because even if you stopped listening, your soul never stopped speaking to you. It has always been there, like a loving mother patiently waiting for you to be ready to receive her guidance. And if you're hearing these words, it's not by chance. It's because something inside you has already begun to awaken. It's because that inner voice is growing, louder, stronger, clearer. You only need to allow yourself to trust. You only need to take that step. You are not alone. You are not lost. You are returning home to yourself, to that eternal and wise part of you that has always known the way, even when you could not yet see it. If this message has resonated with you, if you feel in your heart that this truth is yours, that this path is your path, I invite you to support us. Subscribe to the channel, share this message with other seekers of light, and leave in the comments what you have discovered about yourself. Because every time an inner voice awakens, a light is kindled in collective consciousness. And together, step by step, we will strengthen our inner voice and awaken our true power.